he made $4 million off assignment fees.
Yeah.
Dude, how many deals did he close in Jacksonville?
Ridiculous amount, Josh. And if you look at his assignment fees, they're not all like $20,000-$30,000 assignment fees that you see on IG, right? Mm-hmm. Most of them were like 1,000, 5,000, 3,000, right? But there's tons of them, right? So think about Gonzalo is that he always talks about don't miss it. Like don't miss on any deal, even if the spread is too small.
Why'd you guys pick Egypt out of South America, the Philippines? Philippines is a big one.
In this business of cold calling, you need people that are loyal because you keep training them. We have people like Elijah Rubin, Max Jimenez, Naaman Taylor, Felipe, myself, training these cold callers week in and week out because we want them to be the best in the industry.
All right, guys, welcome back to the project. Today we have Anton here. He is the CEO of REI Call Center. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, my guy. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. I'm right now, we're in your home city, right? Miami?
That's right, man. I live here in Miami. Not in Miami Beach. You guys are in a beautiful spot in Miami, but I live down the street in Coral Gables area.
Today, I just want to share with the audience your story.
Sure.
Like you've done some amazing things. You've built a wholesaling company. You have REI Call Center, which serves like 300 plus clients, and you're buying crazy things to fulfill it too. How did you start in your entrepreneur journey? Like what was that inflection point that made you start?
Yeah, I'll be completely real with you guys. COVID, it was what made me get into it. Mm-hmm. I always say that COVID is probably going to make the huge amount of millionaires, if not the most amount of millionaires in history, because of the situation put us all in, right? So I was working at W-2 back then. I was traveling the world, living the life, Josh. Mm-hmm. I mean, really traveled 6 to 7 months out of the year.
Wow.
All over the world, 45 different countries by now. I enjoyed it very, very much. And making 6 figures. Back then I was like, it was 4 years ago, making $120,000. Not crazy for Miami, but it was a nice job that took me all over the world. And then COVID hit, right? So that whole travel thing stopped. And even though I still have my W-2, but I was going crazy. I was like, I can't sit in these 4 walls that was in my office and trying to make it look like I'm doing something or trying to work because I was so used to being on the road. So it took me out of my shell. It was a wake-up call for me, and it's like a smack in the face of what's going on in my life and what am I really, really doing. I mean, I got my MBA. I always thought I was going to become a CEO of a company. I didn't know that I was going to become a CEO this soon of my own company, but I always wanted to climb that corporate ladder. And then when COVID hit, I really just got desperate. I'm like, I really got to do something. I always had this entrepreneurship bug inside of me, but I never really got into it because I started traveling right out of college. Right out of college, I got a job, and my second week of work, they were like, Anton, can you go to China? I'm like,
what? Wait, what job was this?
This was a chemical engineering company. It's not that big. It's a medium-sized company, so you wouldn't know what it is, but it was just a really cool gig, right? So I'm not a chemical engineer by trade. I applied as a Russian translator. Really quick story. I finished my finance degree, moved to Miami right away. I used to live in Tucson, Arizona. I moved to Miami literally 2 months after I graduated, and I'm like, I'm going to get a job in a bank, right? I saw Wolf of Wall Street, and I wanted to become a banker, right? And party and have a great time. And then, of course, I moved to Miami. It was 2010. The finance market was still kind of in a shaky stage. And every bank that I went to, there was one question that they asked me. ¿Tú hablas español? Like, do you speak Spanish? And I don't speak Spanish, Josh, at all. Back then, I was like, no. Every single bank, Josh, you wouldn't believe that. Now that I look back at it, it's a blessing. I don't see myself working in a bank or sitting in front of a bank, and nothing to bankers out there, but it's just a really, really, really tough job. So thank God it didn't happen. So I couldn't find a job at a bank. So I applied as a Russian translator for this chemical engineering company. They hired me on board. They're like, you're going to be our business development manager because of my energy. I don't know why, but I guess. So like, you're going to be a business development manager. You're going to travel the world and visit our distributors. Cool. Awesome. 2 weeks in, can you go to China? Done. So I go to Hong Kong. I have a great time in Hong Kong. I'm like, this is life, man. And then from there, I just started traveling. I was young. I was having a great time. I come back from Hong Kong. I'm like, this is great. So I just continue working with that company. And then bringing us back to COVID, I stopped traveling, and I was sitting around, and I knew I wanted to do something. And like 80% of the people out there, I was always trying to learn about real estate, right? Everybody finds real estate very, very, very sexy. and I was listening to Bigger Pocket podcasts. I was reading the books. I was in that analysis paralysis stage for many, many, many years, right? Because I didn't know where to start. But I always knew I wanted to be in real estate. Like, I wanted to buy real estate, right? That was a cool thing to do. And that's still a really, really, really good thing to do in terms of your future wealth. I was listening to podcasts, reading books, COVID hit, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, what should I do? What should I do? And I'll never forget, Josh, I was sitting on my couch one night drinking a beer, literally just on my iPhone. IG, Felipe Mejia comes up. For those of you guys who don't know who Felipe Mejia is, he used to be a Bigger Pockets rookie podcast host, right? So that's how I got to know him, listening to all the podcasts. And he had a live, right? I'm just sitting there. I open his live, and he's in Daytona, Florida. And I'm like, oh, cool, Daytona, Florida. That's a couple hours from here. So I just texted him, like, hey, Felipe, if you're ever in Miami, let me know. I'll buy you a drink. Right, and he's just on live, just answering questions, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then he reads the message, hey, Anton, hit me up after this live for sure, man. We'll set something up. I'm like, okay, cool. Didn't think twice, right? Because I mean, for me back then, he was like a celebrity because of Bigger Pockets. Right after the live, I hit him up. I sent him a DM. Hey, Felipe, this is Anton. We just connected again. If you're ever in Miami, let me know. I'll buy you a drink. He's like, dude, shoot me your number. He texts me right away. Shoot me your number. So I texted my number. 10 seconds later, I did a phone call. Like, no, get out of here. I pick up the phone. Hey, what's up, man? This is Felipe. I'm like, get the heck out of here, bro. No way. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just here chilling. And he's like, hey, man, I have this mastermind that I started. Would love for you to join. We talked for a couple minutes, right? He gets to know me a little bit about what I do, what I'm interested in. Of course, I tell him how I listen to Bigger Pockets. I want to get into real estate. And he's like, look, man, I just started this mastermind called Rat Race to Fight, and I would love for you to just come on the call. I'm like, yeah, well, okay, sure. So he sends me a link. That night, I jump on the Rat Race to Fight mastermind call, and I was blown away by the energy in the room, right? They say how when you get around people that are doing things that you would like to be doing or in the same zone of interest and the same mindset, you just get so motivated. And this was 10 p.m. at night, and I'll never forget, I jumped off that mastermind call and I couldn't sleep. I'm like, dude, this is cool. This is cool. This is awesome. I'm definitely joining this mastermind. I'd never been part of a mastermind before. For those of you who are out there who don't know what a mastermind is or have heard of these groups meeting up and thought it might be expensive paying those fees, one of the biggest takeaways, if I can give you guys from this podcast, is get around people that are doing already something that you're doing, because it's going to take you to a new level that you have never even thought of. Because it's not only motivating, inspiring, but also it changes your mindset about how, hey, if these guys can do it, normal people can do it, I can do it too, right? And so this group had about 60 members back then, and I still felt new. I had no clue what I was doing. I'll never forget when I joined and they asked me, Anton, what do you want to do? In front of 60 people on the Zoom call. I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'll house hack, because that was was the sexy thing back then, a couple of years ago, house hacking, which it still is. It's a cool concept, but I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to house hack. I'm going to buy a house in Miami or buy a duplex, and I'm going to rent it out and let somebody live in there and pay my mortgage. And they were like, okay, cool. You have 30 days to find your house hack. You have 60 days to close on it. And then I'm like, okay, sure. So again, they put that mindset in front of me. Okay, I have to take action, right? So if I was doing it on my own, if I was still listening to podcasts, reading the books, I probably would still be sitting there not taking any action. So they really kicked my butt and say, hey, you have to go ahead and get your first property. Okay, cool. So I started in that direction. And then one night on that, I was attending the calls. I'm excited. I'm looking for my first house hack. And one night they have this guy come on the call. So the speaker, his name is Gonzalo Corzo. For those of you who don't know who Gonzalo Corzo is, he is the biggest wholesaler in Jacksonville, Florida. Last year, he made about $4 million in assignment fees, which is insane. And it's not about $4 million of real estate that he sold that people say. It's assignment fees.
He made $4 million off assignment fees?
Yeah.
Yeah, how many deals did he close in Jacksonville?
Ridiculous amount, Josh. And if you look at his assignment fees, and if you want, I can go into a little bit about what that means. But if you look at those assignment fees, they're not all like $20,000, $30,000 assignment fees that you see on IG, right? Most of them were like $1,000, $5,000, $3,000, right? But there's tons of them, right? So the thing about Gonzalo is that he always talks about don't miss it. Like, don't miss on any deal, even if the spread is too small. People get into this game and they want to make these big checks that you see on IG, right? $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 checks, which is great. You could do that. But unfortunately, that's not how most of the deals are, right? Most of the deals, you are going to be in that $5,000, $7,000, $12,000 assignment checks in wholesale real estate. I don't know how much you want me to go into wholesale real estate.
Yeah, just real quick. Sure. How did he make that $4 million? Like, it was through wholesaling?
Wholesaling, yeah, that's all he did. This is another takeaway from this podcast, guys, is he laser focused on wholesaling. When you get into real estate, or in any, we have this shiny object syndrome, right? How we see something, Turo, Bitcoin, real estate, wholesaling. We're like, oh my God, this is a cool new thing. I want to go ahead and start doing that. And unfortunately, what happens is our focus just gets away, and we don't end up with anything because we try to do too many things at once. And Gonzalo was huge on focusing on one thing. He wanted to become a wholesaler. He wanted to become the biggest wholesaler in Jacksonville, and right now he's on the track of becoming the biggest wholesaler in the nation. That's his next goal.
Wow.
So he's a big mindset. This year he's on track of making $8 million. So he wants to double what he did last year, and he probably will. Even though we're on this shaky real estate market right now, he's crushing it, man. And the reason he's crushing it again is because he focused. He's been doing this for the last 10 years. He's 27 years old. He's got more employees than his age. He's very, very, very incredible person. And when hopefully one time you can get him on this podcast, he is a wealth of knowledge. But anyway, he jumps on the call. He starts talking about wholesaling. Back then, I didn't know what wholesaling was. And I thought it was just, I couldn't even understand. But he starts talking about how you can just find a property without using any of your money, put it under contract, find an investor, sell that property to an investor, and make that spread that we call the assignment fee in between, right? And in my head, I'm like, well, look, first of all, I'm not using my money. Second of all, I'm learning about the market. Third, I'm getting experience in real estate, right? Instead of me putting a whole bunch of money and buying a house hack and hopefully we'll succeed, or buying a flip and hopefully we'll succeed, why don't I look into this whole wholesaling thing? And good thing it was like 2 weeks in of my membership with Rat Race to Fi. Rat Race to Fi is no longer around, by the way, so don't look it up. But it was a mastermind that they had to move on from. But anyway, so next day, Josh, I'm in the gym. I remember I'm working out. I'm sending a text message to Diego Corzo. Diego Corzo used to be a partner with Felipe Mejia on Rat Race to Fi, so they started it together. Gonzalo is Diego's brother. Right? So this is a connection here. So I'm like, man, this is crazy. So again, I can't sleep. I wake up in the morning. I'm like, I need to look into this wholesaling thing. This is Thursday night. That was Thursday night. Friday morning is when I'm in the gym. And I text Diego. Hey, Diego, this is Anton. I thought last night's call was phenomenal. Can I learn a little bit more about wholesaling? How much money do I have to pay to Gonzalo to teach me? And I would also, my first deal, my assignment fee is going to go to him. I will pay him the money that he needs me to teach me, and I will pay him the assignment fee that I will make. So again, lead with value, right? You don't want to just come in, teach me more. Can I pick your brain, or let me take you out for coffee? Like, don't do that, right? Come in and lead with value and offer something that they can get in exchange for. So I wanted to pay for his time because I know it's valuable, and I wanted to learn more and give him the first assignment check. Diego texts me right away. Here's G's number. Call him. Get out of here. Okay, cool. So I text G, right? I didn't call him. I texted him. I'm in the gym. Hey, G, great seeing you. Same message. How much? And I'll pay you the fee. And he replies back, man, you don't have to pay me anything. If you want, tomorrow morning, which is going to be Saturday, 8 a.m., if you're available, let's jump on a call. I'm there, bro. Literally 8 a.m., Gonzalo, we call him G, so I'm going to refer to him as G. But G's in the office, taking calls, making calls. 8 in the morning on a Saturday, my guy. And I'm like, dude, this guy, like, in his suit. It was funny because he always wears a suit when he's in the office.
What?
I'm like, this guy is something, right? So I'm like, bro, teach me everything about real estate. He's like, I got an hour. Ask me all the questions you got. So we spent an hour. He teaches me the whole concept of real estate. Wholesaling real estate. It's a very simple concept. It's not easy, right? I'm not going to say it's an easy thing to do, but it's a very, very simple concept in terms of how it works. And he's like, go out and find your first deal, pull a list, start calling that list, and find your first deal. Once you do, call me. I'm super excited. I go on PropStream because he told me the services that he used. He used PropStream to pull a list, and then he used a Mojo dialer to call that list, right? One of the things he did give me, the takeaway was don't dial each number by hand, of course, because it's going to take forever. Get a dialer, right? So I got Mojo dialer, and I pulled the list from PropStream, skip traced that list, and I started calling. Josh, I started calling that Saturday, that Sunday, and then I kept calling after work, because I would still have my W-2 back then, after work for a couple hours, just calling. And he's like, your goal is to make 25 calls a day. And he inspired me. I was so pumped. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and do this.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who ever done cold calling, or I don't know, Josh, if you have on your own, but it sucked for better. For better, I can't describe it other than that. It was not fun. I mean, you get people screaming at you, stop calling me, get a real job, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I just want to see if you want to sell your property, right? And so a whole bunch of people hang up, and I'm like, man, this is tough. So I kept calling. It took me about 2 months to get my first deal under contract. But I kept calling. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss on this, but I'm going to do it. And I kept calling. I got my first deal under contract in Tampa, Florida. I'll never forget. It was like 7 p.m. on a Wednesday night, or like during the week. I FaceTime G. I'm like, G, I got my first property. He's like, and he's in the office at like 7 p.m. with his suit on. He's like, calm down. We'll get you there. So long story short, he walks me through the whole process. We get that property disposed. I made like $7,500 on that property. It was cool, man. I thought I was the richest wholesaler in the world. I'm like, oh my God, I made it. That's it, $7,500. Let's go. Let's do this. So yeah, that was my first wholesale deal. And big shout out to G, because he's the one that really led me through it. And then I was like, dude, G, this took me 2 months, right? How much money I spent on pulling a list, and then time on dialing the list. I mean, dude, there's got to be a better way. Mm-hmm. And Josh, I'll never forget. He's like, and G was like, there is a better way. I'm like, what does it do? What do you do? He's like, well, I hired cold callers. I'm like, shut up. He's like, I have like 7 or 8 cold callers. I think 7, whatever number it was. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what do you mean you hire cold callers? So you don't actually cold call? You don't have people in the office that cold call? He's like, no, I hired cold callers from overseas. Why didn't you tell me this 2 months ago when we connected? He's like, no, I wanted you to go through this grunt work, right? Third takeaway from this podcast is that whatever you're starting to do, don't just take the easy route. Embrace the suck. Like, do the work. Understand how hard it is, right? REI Call Center is a company that helps you find professional cold callers. But don't contact me if you've never picked up the phone and dialed yourself. Really, because you're not going to understand how the process works, and I need you to go through this whole process. So even though we can help you out, I highly encourage you guys to pick up the phone and dial at least FSBOs, for sell by owners, right? Get that practice in about calling for sell by owners and saying, hey, my name is Anton, I would like to buy your property. Start asking questions and getting comfortable talking to homeowners about selling their property. So G was like, I wanted you to know how the process works. So again, big thanks to him, because I think I would have probably failed if I didn't hire a cold caller. If I didn't do it on myself first and only hired a cold caller. So then I started hiring cold callers. Josh, I went and I started putting ads out. I got a couple cold callers from Colombia, from Jamaica. And the reason why I say couple is because most of them they don't succeed, right? Because you don't know what you're doing. They don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to train them, management, and it's a mess if you're trying to do it on your own. And I did. It was fun, but anyway. So I started doing that, getting a couple more deals in. Felipe and Diego are like, hey man, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm using cold callers to find off market deals and then wholesaling those deals. And they're like, hey, can you come on our Rat Race to 5 mastermind on Wednesday and talk about it with our students? And I was like, sure, whatever, cool, awesome. So I come in, I start telling them what it is I'm doing. I'm feeling successful, but then I got a couple of deals under my belt. I'm good to go, and I'm using cold callers. And of course, next day it's like everybody's shooting me up. Anton, can you help me find a cold caller? Can you help me find a cold caller? Even Felipe hits me up. Felipe's like, Anton, I want you to help me find a cold caller. And I'm like, okay, cool, I got you. And he's like, you got to tell me how much it's going to be. I'm like, no, don't worry about it. Let me just do the work, and then we'll find it. And then we'll talk about the money part. And he's like, okay, cool. So I take about a couple of weeks. So I start finding cold callers for these other people, right? And for Felipe as well. But for Felipe, because how he was my mentor back in the day, now he's my business partner in REI Call Center. But I took my time. I found him 2 solid cold callers. And he's like, man, these are great. Thank you so much, Anton. How much do I owe you? I'm like, dude, you don't owe me anything. This is just like a paid forward, right? You don't owe me anything. You already got me into this game. I appreciate you more than ever. Going back to that live that I first saw you at. And he's like, no, man, I got to pay you. It's like, no, you don't owe me anything. Chill, relax, enjoy, have a great time with them, and I hope your business grows. Awesome, dude, thanks. So I keep doing that, right? But then after Felipe pushed me, he was like, man, I got to pay you. I thought in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm helping people with this quote unquote service that I'm not charging for. I'm just literally giving these cold callers away. And then, connecting the dots, I'm like, I should start charging for this. So I started going on IG. I know you're big on IG. And I was like, hey, if you need a cold caller, let me know. And some people hit me up, and I started looking for cold callers. And I found cold callers for three or four people. I charged them like $1,500 back then to just find a cold caller, right? Which is just for my time, right? And it takes time to find them, train them. And this is something that I would train, and I would just give them away. The problem was that once you find somebody, you got to manage them. You got to make sure they come in on time, they use the script, they don't screw around, they don't burn the dialer, which is just click no answer. So that's another step. And then Felipe calls, he's like, all right, dude, what it is that you're doing now? I'm like, well, I'm charging people for this. He's like, wait a second, you're charging people for this? I'm like, yeah. He's like, let's do something. And he was the one that really put the concept, quote unquote, together in terms of how we could find cold callers, train them, manage them, make sure that they're continuously trained for our clients, and quote unquote find clients to rent cold callers, right? They're part of our team. So right now we have over 310 people on our team that are phenomenal, and over, just like you said, 300 clients that we've served and continue serving. But so now we have a whole structure. So Felipe came in, he's like, let's make this into a business. So Felipe Mejia, Diego Corzo, myself, and this other individual, Adam Barber, came in and founded this company called REI Call Center. So this was 2 years ago. Our anniversary is actually on June 17th, so in about a month.
Wow.
Today is May 15th.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you, man. And I'm actually going to Egypt because we're opening an office over there.
Wow.
Yeah, we want to have right now everybody's remote, but we want to have all of our cold callers, acquisition managers, disposition managers, all in-house, where it's all just a complete ecosystem that we want to build. And that's where we are. I don't know where you want me to go from here.
Yeah, well, why'd you guys pick Egypt out of
Great
South
question.
America, the Philippines? Philippines is a big one.
Sure.
Like, why?
Great question, man. Yeah, so when we started, G was hiring cold callers. Gonzalo was hiring cold callers from Latin America, like Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Venezuela, Brazil. And that's where we went too. I said, G, I'm going to find your cold callers. I'm going to manage them. And by the way, right now he has 16 of our cold callers in-house that he does. He did the 4 million. I want to say we collaborated on that in a way, but no, we didn't. But I mean, he did use our cold callers. And now he has, at one point he had like 30 when the market was stupid hot.
Wow.
But now he's down to 16, which I'm getting him up there back in. But anyway, we went into Latin America first, right? I didn't want to go to Philippines for a reason that I've had past experience of working in Philippines. And the problem is with the Philippines is that everybody goes to Philippines, right? It's a known place to hire VAs, right? Which is great. They're great people, great workers, everything's good. But the problem is that because they're in so demand, that the loyalty there is not that great, because they know they can find a job tomorrow.
Right.
Everybody goes to Philippines, and they're like, and that's just the truth of it. I mean, and I know that in this business of cold calling, you need people that are loyal because you keep training them. We have people like Elijah Rubin, Max Jimenez, Naaman Taylor, Felipe, myself, training these cold callers week in and week out because we want them to be the best in the industry, right? It is a tough job. And going back to Latin America, we started there. At one point, I had 50 people working for me in Latin America, and I was like, this is great. But the problem with cold calling is that it's not a job for everybody, right? So there's a lot of negative in terms of people yelling at you, cussing at you.
Yeah, it's a hard job.
Yeah, it's a difficult job,
Yeah.
right? And my girlfriend is Colombian. I love Latin American people, and there's nothing again. But it's for a specific mindset. If you're sitting there 4, 6, 7 hours a day and people are yelling at you, it's a tough mindset. So we had a huge turnover, right? People would just not be able to handle it. And those that did handle it, they weren't the top performers, right? So I'm like, I was always trying to figure out how can I make this work. But I never looked back. I always thought Latin America would be the way to go. And then one day I have my HR girl call me out of the blue, Anton, we have a problem. What's the problem? She's like, we have 160 people apply from Egypt. And I'm like, what's the problem? She's like, what do we do? I'm like, what do you mean, what do you do? Let's go ahead and interview them, right? She's like, from Egypt. Oh, one day, Josh. One day, 160 people. I don't know how the word got out.
That's crazy.
We never hired there or posted any sort of job applications. 160 people. We started interviewing. I said, your job is to interview as many as you can over the next 2 weeks. We started hiring them on board, hiring them on board. And I was just incredibly amazed by the tenacity of those guys. I mean, Egypt is I've been there twice already since we started. It's a great place, but it's a tough place, right? I mean, it's still a place where things don't come easy. They work for what they have, and it's a hustler mentality, right? You got to eat what you kill, kind of thing, right?
Right.
So and I realized that early that these guys were hustlers. And if you ever heard, I don't want to make this sound in any way, but if you ever heard Arabic language, how they speak, it almost sounds like they're really aggressive. It's a very aggressive language whenever they speak. So they're used to that, right? So for them, it was nothing new when somebody's being aggressive at them over the phone. For us, it's like when somebody yelling at us.
I see that correlation. Okay.
Right? So for somebody yelling at us, we're like, oh crap, this guy is mad. But for them, it's like, no, this is just us talking. This is you and I are talking like this, right? That's normal. But they're just having a nice conversation, but it's very aggressive. Anyway, but that was another plus. So I started listening to these guys. I started training these guys. And I remember one of the guys was getting it handed to him on the phone. They're like, you blah, 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 Ephraim, blah, blah, blah. You stop calling me. You never call me again. This is number. All the freaking word. Like this guy was going off on this cold caller. And this cold caller was just, after this guy's finished, like, great, sir. Thank you so much for that. Do you know anybody else I might be interested in selling? Like, screw you, hung up, right? But again, the tenacity of having somebody yell at you so hard and call you all these names and still be in the zone, like, hey, do you know anybody else? Right. With a smile on his face, and I'm like, these guys are it. So we got into Egypt and since then, and I never looked back in terms of how dedicated these guys are and how hardworking they are, and really, really, really now I'm proud to say that we are the #1 cold calling company out there, and I do give it out to my people. I never say I was the one that did it, and I will never say that one person on our team ever did this. This is our people that are hardworking every single day in and day out, and now we're here. Now I want to give back. I want to go back to Egypt, open that office, find a way how we can be more philanthropic about it. One of the biggest issues in Egypt that they have is that it's the mentality of throwing things like outside, right? There's so much trash outside. And I'm like, how do you guys live like this? And like, oh, this is just the mentality. For them, they don't see a difference. They don't see anything. For me, it was like, dude, that's not cool. So I want to go back. And one of my goals is not only open an office, not only be the #1 cold calling company out there, but really give back and figure out a way how we can maybe even like clean up the streets kind of thing, right? Right. Just to give back, because I think it's really, really important. But yeah, so now we are not only cold calling, but we're doing acquisitions. So we have people that follow up on the leads and then put those leads under contract for you. And then once the deal is under contract, we send it to our TC. So we just recently started our transaction coordinating side of business. So we can help you coordinate your deal. We have a disposition team that builds day in and day out. They speak with buyers. So we go into this whole reverse wholesaling method that we've been doing for the last 6 months, where we find the buyers first, right? Instead of being like a shotgun approach, we want to be a sniper approach. So we build great relationships with local buyers, and we have a list of VIP buyers that tell us exactly what they're looking for. We send that information to our clients. These are the deals that people are looking for. These are the areas. Go ahead. So now you're able to do a lot more deals a lot quicker, and you're a lot more successful than just doing it on your own and trying to figure out what works.
So when you were building this big business that you have right now, right? I'm sure it wasn't easy all the way through. What were some of those roadblocks that you experienced trying to grow this business?
In the beginning, we really wanted to go out after anybody and everybody who's interested in the cold caller, but we found out that was probably not the best thing to do. So we got into more of the educational space of trying to teach our clients what wholesaling is, how to work with your cold caller, how to treat this as a business. A lot of people come into this game and they treat it as their side hustle. And yeah, it may work. You might make a little bit of money, and I did that in the beginning too. But you have to really focus on this and dedicate your time. So getting past that mindset of like set it and forget it kind of thing, which is not like any business. REI Call Center is part of helping you bring that team, the systems and processes in place, but you still have to put that CEO hat on, right? And and run it as a business. So client education. In terms of a business owner, it was definitely an interesting time when I had my COO, basically one of my top guys in the company, just leave one day. One day, just call me, hey, I'm not working for you, and that was interesting.
Wow.
So you really,
tough.
yeah, that was.
That's a huge roadblock.
I couldn't believe it, yeah, man. So it was somebody that I worked with for over a year, and everything was great, and it's just like things happen, and people problems, I guess, is the biggest things you will have as a business owner is finding the right people, make sure they're motivated, make sure they know what their trajectory is. Don't just find somebody that you can pay a salary to and have them work for you. Really focus on developing them. That is why for us it's so important. Even to this day, the cold callers have been with us for 2+ years. They still go training. They still go through development programs that we put for them, and then outings, that office. So always don't get stagnant. We have been successful. We are successful. And there was at one point, I remember, Josh, where I was like, all right, this is good. I can just sit back and enjoy the ride in terms of this is working, right? I have the people in place. But as a CEO, you can't do that. You always have to be what I like to call productively paranoid about things going wrong, because things will go wrong. Like the market is changing right now. A lot of people are freaking out about what's going on with the wholesale market. It's so much harder to find buyers. Deals are much easier to get by, but buyers are much harder. So, you have to adjust. You have to figure things out as you go. And that is exactly why we are doing the whole reverse wholesaling model, right? Focusing on finding the buyers before we even get the deals. So, yeah, people and processes, make sure those things are in place, right? Don't let your business, and what happened with my COO when he left is that I let my business run around him. Right. So he had everything, and the business was really around this guy. But then I figured out that the processes are more important. So once he left, it was a blessing, because then I focused on the SOPs. I said, guys, we have to get SOPs for every little thing we do. Even pulling a list, it has to be an SOP. Coming into work, there has to be an SOP, how you log into the system, which is a standard operating procedures. Build the systems, and then put the people in place to run around those systems.
Build the system first, the infrastructure.
Build the system first, 100%. Or focus on in the beginning, of course, it's easier said than done, but focus on that once.
And then reiterate, right?
Exactly. Because when somebody leaves, I'm sorry, I love my people, but I'm not dependent on anybody. This was a great wake-up call for me, right? Now I have things in place that if anybody would want to leave today, I read a quote the other day that Jeff Bezos, I don't know if you heard about this, but he actually pays a bonus to anybody at Amazon, $2,000 if they want to leave, if they want to quit. So if you work for Amazon and you want to quit, he'll pay you $2,000 to do so.
I didn't know that.
Right? I was like, holy, what is this? This is cool. But the mentality is that I don't want you to work for me just because you're here for the paycheck. Right? I don't want you to work for me unless you're really passionate about what it is that you're doing. Right. I will pay you to leave, my guy. Like, I love you. I appreciate you. But if you're here for just the paycheck and the money, this is not going to last, right? I'm in this for 10, 15, 25 years plus. Right. And I want you to be the same. And I'm all for having my guys. We are, and I'm not just saying this just to say it, Josh. Yeah. We are one of the highest paid companies in Egypt right now. Amazon managers make less than my account managers that work with our clients. Wow. And I say that proudly, right? Because I want them to be successful. I want them to make the money. I'm not here to take advantage of anybody. And if they're happy, successful, my customers are going to be happy, successful, and I will be happy, successful. So, yeah. Yeah,
it helps build the culture for your company, and then in turn, it helps out your clients at the end, right? And then with your clients, so with a service-based business, it's all about retention, right? What are you doing right now that's helping your clients stay for longer?
Retention is huge, especially for this business. A lot of people coming into wholesaling, they do a couple deals, they think especially Josh. Okay, this is a great question. You just got me on. The last 2 years of what has been going on in real estate is not what's gonna happen in the future or what is happening now, right? People were used to making this easy, getting these deals and just selling them for crap loads of money. No matter, you could put a deal under contract at Zillow price, and you could probably wholesale it at $10,000, $15,000 more than that. Easily. Now those things are gone, right? So retention is huge because people were used to this, right? This easy way of doing things. And now it's a lot more difficult, as we just talked about. But the retention part is is difficult. So again, we want to focus more on education. We want to focus on building a better product, right? So we were focused a lot on profits in the beginning, and profits are huge. You definitely have to focus on profits. But right now we are focused on what can we do to build a better product for our clients, right? And that starts with not only the actual product, but the customer service, the way that we bring the top closers in the country to train our people. We go into the reverse wholesaling side where we don't make any money on disposition unless you close a deal with us. Right. So for us to go out there and build a buyer's list and have the VIP buyer's list in place, that's another important part. We were talking about earlier with you that we are getting into putting everything under one roof, right? So I started getting tired of depending on other people's services, right? So I thought, let's bring the product in, for example, skip tracing. We are buying a skip tracing company called skipbetter.com. It's one of the top companies out there for skip tracing services, but we want to run it because we know how important our customer service is. Transaction coordinating, right? A lot of people had no clue what to do once you get a property under contract, right? So now we're putting that into place. We're doing events. Last week we did an event in Jacksonville, Florida. It was a client appreciation week where we brought in Gonzalo that I was just talking to you about earlier, Naaman Taylor, a few other closers, and we just did a free event in Jacksonville, Florida, where we rented a freaking mansion on the beach, and did a free event for our clients.
You're already going into what you're going to be doing in the future, right?
Yes.
So where is REI call center going? Where are you going with REI call center? What else are you doing?
Sure. I'll be honest with you, Josh. I'm like Gonzalo in the beginning of this episode. He put all his attention on becoming the number one wholesaler. I'm putting 1,000% of my attention on growing this company into the number one lead generation company in the United States, if not the world at one point. But we want to be a lead generation machine, not only for real estate, but also for right now. We got into solar, we got into roofing, the contractors that are looking for leads. We want to be the number one outbound marketing company in the US, right? And how that looks like is, if you're looking for my ultimate goal, I'm looking for a $1.7 billion buyout. So that's my number.
Well, why 1.7?
It's so I was at a conference last year, and I don't know if you guys remember this CEO of LifeLock. LifeLock.
I've heard of it. Yeah, LifeLock.
Right.
Yeah,
so LifeLock is still a company out there that helps protect your credit, right? And the guy that founded the company was on stage talking about when he started, how difficult things were, and he said something that I really resonated with, and he said that every day felt like you are hanging on to a rocket ship and you're flying off into the atmosphere, and you're trying to solve problems by putting band-aids and scotch tape everywhere because things are falling apart, and you're trying to keep this thing together and really bring it out. And his exit was 1.2 billion. In my head, I'm like, dude, if this guy, he literally had a call center service, right? It was a service that sold credit protection services, right? So and I was a lead generation. So for me, $1 billion was important. 1.7, I can't really answer you why. It was just a number that came to my head. I sat down with my business partners and I said, look, guys, this is a goal. If you guys are in this for $20, $100 million, this is not the business for you to be in. Say it now, because we're going for the $1 billion. So I set myself a goal, just like you were talking about, thinking big. So I think 1.7 for me is just that number that came to me. I felt it, and I really, really think that we'll be able to do it one day. And I'm not going to stop until we get there. So for any of you out there who's interested in buying a call center for 1.7 billion, give me a shout. I'll be more than happy to speak to you. No, but one day, that's like a 25-year goal, right?
Right.
So there's so much still that we can do, Josh, that is it's just incredible, because any business you look at, marketing is probably your number one most important thing. Take care of marketing, and sales will take care of themselves, as we say. So we do want to become not only the cold calling company, but a lead generation company in the United States. And I guarantee you we'll get there.
Oh, I have no doubt about it, man. So with a lead generation company, what are the multiples? How much revenue do you have to generate to get to 1.7? Do you know of that number yet?
Yeah, so I know the multiples. So the multiple we have to be. So we are going to be the tech company. So
transfer it into tech as well.
Exactly.
Okay. Exactly. So that's how you're going to get the higher multiple. Okay.
Exactly. It's going to be more of a data data-driven company. That's why we're getting to skip tracing. That's why we're getting
Got
into
it.
C, because eventually we are going to be a freaking mountain full of data of the United States.
Are you implementing AI yet?
We are slowly. We are looking into it. It's very tricky thing. So right now we are looking into having AI callers, but I'm not comfortable with the whole process.
AI callers.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's bots out there that I'm sure I swear you probably got a call from them. It was a telemarketer that sounded just like a person. And when you say something like, "Oh, don't call me anymore," they would actually say something back. So
There's
it's not
like
just
an
a machine.
objection.
Exactly.
Like it goes in.
Exactly.
Okay.
So those systems costs hundreds of thousands of
bet.
dollars, and we're looking into those things right now. But at the end, I still think that human to human approach is still in. But definitely AI is going to be a huge part of it eventually. But in terms of, again, lead gen, we are going into all sources of lead generation: cold calling, direct mail, email, Facebook, PPC, everything and anything that you can think of. We will have it under our roof for our clients.
All right. So this is going to be a lightning round. I'm going to ask you a couple questions and
go.
just quick answers. Okay. What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
Dream bigger.
What is the worst advice you've ever gotten?
Do what everybody else does.
If there was one thing that you wanted to tell your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
Start sooner.
All right. Last thing. Where can the audience find you?
Sure, my man. I'm on IG. I'm big on Instagram. Anton Z REI. Anton at reicallcenter.com is my email. Shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to jump on and give back and help as much as I can to others who are looking into getting into this or maybe scaling this business.
Well, Anton, I wish you luck in everything you do. You're going to have that $1.7 billion exit. And thank you again for coming on, man.
Thank you so much, Josh. It was a pleasure.